This audio podcast is available on YouTube, iTunes and Google Play, or you can download and listen to an MP3 audio file from my website or add the RSS feed to your podcast player. If you're listening to the podcast on iTunes, I would appreciate a rating and a review. And on YouTube, subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell icon. If you enjoy an episode, a like is always welcome, as are any comments or questions you may have, which you can add in the comment section below each episode. Thank you.
Cheers. Although, if people don't like, they're going straight down into Davy Jones's locker, so they better click the like button.
And welcome to the Sim Racing Perspectives podcast for Sunday the 4th of November 2018. I'm delighted to be joined today by two extra special guests. Two guests we have this week. We have Matt Malone. Hello, Matt.
Hey, how you doing?
Thank you for joining. And we also have Samantha Malone. Hello, Samantha.
Hello.
Thank you for joining. Now, Samantha, I'm excited about today's episode because not only are you the first, how shall I say it, lady sim racer to join the show, but not only that, you're also the first first lady, first female to join the show. If I can put it that way. So,
how about that?
Well, it's my pleasure.
Should I don't know. I thought about it. Should I? If I say female, does that sound? Will that kind of upset somebody, or should I say lady, or kind of like?
Nowadays, you can't be too sure.
Exactly. Now, guys. First of all, I have some notes here, and thank you for joining. Now, first things first, and I want to learn more about you guys and how you got started. Now, first of all, you got married in June, wasn't it so?
Yes, we did.
June 23rd.
Congratulations. My congratulations.
Thank you.
Did you do, can I ask, you don't need to go into details, but did you do anything special for that, or?
Yeah, so just locally, we went to the chapel, got married, had our reception, and then we actually took a 2-week honeymoon down in Punta Cana, the Dominican Republic. So nice relaxing end to our wedding.
So we did it pretty traditional.
Yeah.
Did you get nice weather?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was beautiful. Every day, like from the time that we woke up till we went to bed, it was like 83 degrees, steady, sunny,
wow.
Nice breeze. It was beautiful. And actually, I think it was like 2 days after we got back, ended up a hurricane went through the island, and we had heard nothing about it up till that point. We're like, what?
Oh, really? Because that's interesting. That kind of leads directly to your trip to Road Atlanta, which I want to talk about. And hello also to Roxy. My daughter's crazy about dogs, so I don't want to show her any video of Roxy because otherwise she'll be on your channel all day. So I don't want to tell her. Now, Matt, first of all, usually with the show, what I do is, now I know you mentioned this at your QA event at Road Atlanta with the iRacing guys, but can you give us a rundown, basically from both of you? How did you start in gaming? How did you start in sim racing? And then what made you decide to start your YouTube channel and Twitch streaming and so on?
Oh, well, it goes back as far as I can remember, really, always playing video games. I mean, I grew up in the in the 80s and the early 90s when Nintendo came out, and you progressed through Sega, and then PlayStation was a thing. And I just always liked racing games, and I actually had one of the steering wheels for the PlayStation 1 original.
Really?
And it's funny
wow.
because it didn't really give you any turning. It was you turn the wheel, and then once you reach a certain point, it's just like pretty much turning right on the D-pad, like pushing right on the D-pad. So there wasn't any progression through the steering, which is hilarious now. But and I guess I kind of took a break from it for some years. You got to do some growing up, and
exactly.
got into some console when Forza was big. I guess it still is big, but I was in the Forza 4, and I remember getting one of those Xbox the steering wheel for Xbox 360. And, I just always felt like I needed more, And so looking to some more equipment, found some of the Fanatic stuff. And then while searching for reviews on Fanatic equipment, I came across some iRacing stuff. When they're testing out the equipment, they're going to be testing on iRacing. I'm like, iRacing? What is this iRacing thing? Yeah. So I looked into that and I thought, oh my goodness, this stuff is like really hardcore. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, well, I guess I'll try it. And since then, I've just been completely hooked on iRacing and just the real hardcore simulators after that. Got, slowly, progressively get better and better equipment. You build a wooden rig and then you get an 80/20 rig. And
yes.
Before you know it, you're completely surrounded in monitors and equipment and button boxes and pedals. And oh my gosh, it's just a whirlwind. But yeah, it's a little slow going. But and then how I started streaming / YouTubing, I guess I was in a race and somebody in the race had said, hey, you should come on over to my Twitch channel. I streamed the race, I'm like, well, what the heck is Twitch? So he gave me this Twitch handle and I went over there on the website and sure enough, there you go. He was watching the replay of our race and he's watching all the wrecks, the passes, just over, doing like a recap of the race. And I'm like, no way, this is awesome. I'm like, I can see myself on the screen and he's talking about driving. And I'm like, I had never heard of it. It was a total door opener for me. And I'm like, so then I started thinking, well, why couldn't I stream my races? And, so I started looking into the software required and, all that good stuff. And before you know it, I was like, well, I'll just stream my races. I'm sure people would want to watch them. And here we are today. So yeah, it's been a fun road. That's for sure.
Yeah. It's interesting because I watch so many streamers like yourself and I don't actually stream myself, although I'm aware of Twitch and OBS and Restream and different, and Twitch and YouTube. How long did it take you in general? Like, how long did it take you to get everything kind of figured out in terms of how you connect and everything and how you get your screens working? Did you find it a kind of an easy process, or were you hours and hours on forums and watching tutorials and that kind of thing?
Well, there is the process of watching YouTube tutorials and, figuring out what you need, a lot of messing around with software. But really, I mean, to be honest, just to get going, to get OBS and to get it going and have it running, it's really not that hard. The time where you spend a lot is just configuring everything to what you want. You start getting ideas like, well, I could put this on the screen, or I could do this, or have the webcam over here, or maybe get an overlay, or do this or that. That's where the time comes in, where you're messing around with stuff. You're doing a lot of trial and error. But just a basic stream of having iRacing up in a webcam is really pretty simple to do, especially nowadays. It's really easy. Back then, it was a little bit harder to do, but no, they make it really simple nowadays. But like I said, the most time you're going to spend is just your imagination goes wild and you want to make it happen on the screen.
Yeah.
So
that's the thing.
That's where it comes in.
Yeah. That be kind of intimidating. And how about you, Samantha? Did you always dabble in gaming, or was it just a case of you saw Matt driving and you thought, well, what's this? I want to have a go too, or how did it come about?
Well, when I was in high school, I had started getting into like some first-person shooter games.
Yeah.
The Call of Duty. I wasn't very good, but
neither am I, so don't worry.
It did fit into my personality pretty well because video games are addictive and you just want to get better and better. And so I ended up taking a break from it because it was, I had my squad and we'd meet up like every night, 8:00, play till 11. I'm like, oh, I can't keep doing this anymore, So I took a break. And actually, when I met Matthew, we met on an online dating site.
Oh, did you really? And that's interesting.
We did, yeah. And in his profile, he had put down that he was a Twitch streamer. And I had no idea what Twitch was. So I'm like, what are you talking about? What is a Twitch streamer? And he's like, go watch my videos. I'm like, all right, well, at least I know if, I die in our first date, like, Mom, this is his Twitch channel. Like, find him.
I put it right out there. I wasn't going to try to hide anything. I'm like, here, this is my hobby. This is what I do. Deal with it.
So.
Samantha, when you first went to watch his channel, was it just a voice or was he on the webcam? And did you think, oh, he looks kind of hot, or how was it?
Yeah, so he was actually doing a review on
really?
Some.
It was the CSL Elite bundle or whatever.
Yeah, I think it was one of his most viewed videos at the time. And so I scrolled through it a little bit. I'm like, well, this guy's pretty attractive and he's got a nice deep voice. Like, all right, let's go on a date.
And he replied, okay, I'll come on a date. Shall I bring along my rig? You said, no. Leave it.
Yeah, I didn't know at the time, like, how much of a setup it was,
Yeah.
It's quite the equipment setup. I mean, he's put a lot of time and invested a lot into it, so.
Actually, on our first date, she made me bring proof of my iRating. No.
Really?
No.
Right. You had to get it signed by Kevin Bobbitt or somebody like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And Matt, I really enjoyed your rig tour because you had the little table. My late father, bless him, he used to dabble in antiques, you had the little table and you had an atlas on top of that, and the top of that, and you said, well, I'm keeping this here. I'm never going to move it because it works just right, And you had a little bit of 2x4 here and a little bit of aluminum bar here, and it works out just well, And I love that because you see, like, there's a sim racing subreddit on Reddit, and people are. The most of the content, like let's say 50 or 60% of the content would be people posting pictures of their rigs, and some people are saying, well, is this a sim racing Reddit, or is this a post image of your sim rig Reddit? And some people are just like sofa pushed up in front of the TV, and they have their feet out, and there's a cushion below their feet, and then the pedals are on top, and of course you have the full gamut. You have people with the direct drive wheel with motion, and then you have all the way down, and it's really fascinating to watch what people have. And in terms of playing now iRacing is schedule events and the leagues and stuff, so you started off playing, for example, Forza, maybe Gran Turismo, so which includes, like, let's say the console titles, and many of this PC titles include offline racing. So in terms of the iRacing, is it the competition, is it the live competition with real racers that's rated? Is that what attracts you then to iRacing mostly?
Yeah, 100%. Even with Forza, I would always do the online lobbies.
Yes.
Which I got really frustrated with, because you'd spend 10 minutes in a menu waiting for everyone to queue up. And then the race is like 3 laps or something. You almost spend as much time in the menu than you would in the race. But yeah, the online competition, you versus real people, is what really is pretty much the only thing I like to do. That's what really does it for me. I know iRacing is coming out with some AI, and I think it'll be fine.
Yes,
I think it'll be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, it may draw a lot of people in, and it can be used for practice, but there's never anything going to be like driving against other people. That's what I'm addicted to. That's the best thing about it. Yeah.
And how about you, Samantha? I mean, now I have to admit, I don't play iRacing myself. It's a little bit out of my budget and time. It's out of my financial and time budget right now, but I'm definitely interested now. In terms of how you got started, is it now? I know that you have the Mazda MX-5, which is called the Miata in the States, if I understand correctly. So did you start with the MX-5, or how long have you been playing, or how far have you been able to progress, shall I say? Like, let's say, like, if I was to start, somebody like me, I would obviously start with a learner license and start in the MX-5, which I believe, Matt, you still love. You've still talked about driving the MX-5. So how have you found it, and how far have you been able to get, and have you found it like a smooth transition in terms of leveling up and getting experience and so on?
Yeah, so I did start off with the MX-5 Global.
Yeah.
Mazda, and I really I don't have any like racing experience, or I don't even know how to drive a manual car in real life.
Yeah, that's
so
interesting.
it's like really starting from the ground up. And so, you know, I started with all of the driver assists on it and just trying to get the feel for, you know, how it works. I'm really fortunate since Matthew has invested so much into his equipment that I can jump in at, you know, such a high quality level and sort of just benefit from all of what he's put together for himself. And, you know, it's just like Matthew said, it's really fun racing against other real life people. It can be frustrating, like for me, when, you know, something happens, unfortunately, in the beginning of a race, and then it sets me back and I'm struggling just to keep up. So for me, it's been about like staying consistent in a car. Because one race, you know, I might wreck out really quick in the beginning, and so then you just need more practice. So I am currently in the D class. So I got out of rookies with the Mazda, and then when I got into D class, I tried to switch over to the Skippy, the Skip Barber car.
Yes,
and I love the Skip Barber car. Like, it's so much fun for me to drive, and I think because I'm consistently trying to drive it, you improve more and more. So, I mean, one of the last times I streamed, I won a race, and I was like super excited about that, you know?
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it is exciting, but it is very hard for me personally. I just don't have a lot of seat time to transition from one car to the other.
Yes,
like
that's the thing.
That's very challenging. You drive the cars so differently that, you know, when you're a newbie, you have to put in a lot of consistent time in one car. Because when you're flip-flopping back and forth, you don't really have time to adjust to it. So we'll see. I'm working on the next class up. I really do need to jump into some other cars. But like I said, that's a really challenging thing, just jumping in. You know, Matthew's got so much experience. He's like, what do you guys want to see? What do you want me to race? I'll do it.
Yeah.
For me, I'm like, let me do 30 races in a row.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, they're speaking of the word noob, and what the kids write N00B, for example. Now, I'm a noob. I don't know. How does it go? And just a side question, if I may. If I was to get into iRacing, and let's say now the fact of being online, like you just said, Samantha, being online and wrecking out and embarrassing myself, if I will start off in either the Skip Barber or the MX-5, is there a track I can go on my own and just practice for several weeks and just kind of mess around? Or you know, how do you actually, is it so that you get a license and then you have to join races to be able to get experience? Or can you practice until such time as you feel comfortable in actually joining an online race? Or how does it actually go?
Yeah, you can kind of set it up at your own pace. So there's a schedule for all of the official races if you look on iRacing. And so you'll know this week you get your official races, which levels you up with your I rating and your safety rating. So you look at that because those are the points that will affect your classes. But if you say, okay, I need quite a bit of practice in this, you can look ahead at the schedule.
Yeah.
And then in like private practices, you can practice and it won't affect any of your rating at all if you're wrecking into the wall. Yeah, it's like a safe space. A step up from that, you can join like a practice with other real life racers, and that still won't affect your safety rating or I rating at all.
Okay, that's interesting.
So you're around other people who are also practicing, and they're on the track at the same time as you. So you're kind of working on like awareness with other vehicles, which I really need help with. So, you know, it's tough. It's tough, like putting in laps and then all of a sudden you have a car who's coming up, and what do you do to get around him safely? So that's what everyone's really learning when they're rookies is, oh, it's different. It's not just me, you know, turning the wheel whenever I want. There's a car next to me now. So what do I do?
Exactly.
That doesn't affect him.
Yeah. And Samantha, go on. Sorry. Go on.
Sorry. No, it's okay.
Yeah.
From there, then you can choose to join your races, and then those will affect, if it's an official race, it will affect your I rating, but you can always do a hosted race or continue to put in like time lapse or something.
And the hosted race, that was a recent addition, wasn't it? So a recent feature, or do I remember correctly?
No, hosted races have been there for a while.
Ah,
you just
okay.
pay like a quarter or something for like an hour. You can create your own little hosted race if you want, or just practice session. I mean, you can do literally 1,000 laps of practice by yourself in a private session before you even do any types of racing or anything in iRacing. That's what's great about it, is it doesn't, what am I trying to say? It doesn't like diminish your stats or anything the more you practice. I mean, it's there for you.
Yeah, and they give you select cars and tracks like for free when you register at first, and then like most games nowadays, you can upgrade your content by purchasing additional things. So like an official race might be at a track that you have to purchase. So you might have to spend $7 to buy that track that week if you'd like to race the official race there.
Yes.
$7? That's cheap. Where are you buying tracks? They're like 12, 15 bucks.
All right. I'm not the money spender.
Yeah.
He's getting the bill. I'm just clicking yes.
We get it. Yeah.
Yeah, Matt. Husband, I need that track. Please sort it. Thank you very much. Yeah. And Samantha, you mentioned you've never actually learned to drive stick shift. So the MX-5 Global, is that sequential or is it manual? Or
it's H pattern manual.
H pattern. So Samantha, is it so that you never drove stick shift until you actually drove the MX-5 Global on Matt's computer? Is it so?
Yeah, that's true.
Well, that's fascinating. So you have and I made a note. Matt has the Thrustmaster, the TH8A shifter that's real nerdy. But that's interesting. So you actually never learned to drive a stick shift, and the only first time you did it was on the PC. That's fascinating. Wow.
Yeah, I think it's gonna, first of all, I don't know anybody who would let me get into their car and just kill their clutch and destroy their vehicle. But on the computer, I can.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because often my sisters or my family and friends will ask me, like, could I learn to drive on that? Well, I said, well, technically yes. Of course, it depends on the title and so on. And do you guys, by the way, there's a minor question. Are you guys using this Crew Chief application at all? Because I believe it.
No, I see a lot of people using it. I've been wanting to get it and try it out, but have not yet. It seems really robust and pretty useful, though.
Yeah, I did a tutorial for Assetto Corsa, and we can talk a little bit about that later. But it includes tips on how to use the content manager for Assetto Corsa and also Crew Chief, so you could maybe check that out. I kind of give a start on how to get started on it. Now, I wanted to move on. Now, Matt, you attended the Fanatec DD launch event in Germany. Wasn't it so?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, all the way to Germany on a weekend. Why not, right?
Yeah, exactly. So how did that come out? I know you're kind of a Fanatec guy. So did the guys in Germany just contact you and invite you out, or how did it go?
Yeah, the community manager Dominic Brennan from Fanatic. They were looking for some streamers, some influencers, some people from the Fanatic community, racing community, to kind of be there to kind of share in the celebration of their big birthday party, and get a chance to test out the direct drive wheels, and just kind of be there for the party, and experience everything, and then kind of share our experience with everybody after we got back, or even during the event. And we were able to stream live from the event and test out the new equipment. And a huge opportunity for me. It was a wonderful trip. Long plane ride though, but it actually wasn't that bad. But yeah, I left on a Thursday night and I was back that Sunday night.
Really?
all the way to Germany and back. Yeah, and we even had time to cruise around the local area and go to some local bars and have a good time. Even went on the Autobahn. So yeah, it was a good time. We packed in a lot in that small weekend.
Yeah, we had Gamer Muscle on. I had Gamer Muscle on with William Marsh from Sim Racing Paddock, and Gamer Muscle James was telling us about it. And I have to apologize that you had to be there at the event at the same time as Gamer Muscle, because I was thinking to myself, like, couldn't they have put him in a shed on the mountain all on his own, you know, so he could kind of be away from everybody else, you know, because I didn't think, as far as I know from watching James and what I know of him, it's not safe to let him out of his sim rig, you know, so he's better off like at home drinking tea and chewing on cookies, you know, so but
yeah, I seen him do a live stream. He was losing himself in the woods one time, and he found a dead bird or something. I don't know what the heck was going on. That's what happens when he leaves his house. But no, yeah, me and Gamer Muscle, we had a little bromance going on in Germany. We're like best friends now.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw the pictures, and actually, one day he did a stream. He went to the store and he got the ingredients for cooking a burger, and he cooked a burger in his kitchen, which he live streamed. And then I had, there's a guy, Chris Hay, on YouTube. Chris Hay does great videos, and Chris was on the channel. And Chris said to me, he was on the podcast, and he said, I was watching Gamer Muscle fry a burger in his kitchen, and I don't know why. And then my wife walked into the room, and I closed the lid of the laptop, and I don't know why.
He's ashamed of it. His guilty pleasure.
It felt like I was watching an adult movie, you know. It's like, what? Because she would have said, Chris, why are you what? I have no idea. So that was fascinating. So I guess Matt, you I guess at some point you will be reviewing a DD wheel at some point, or I guess you're looking forward to trying out direct drive at some point.
Yeah, at some point people ask me, you know, after I got back from Germany, so you're going to get the DD1, or are you going to get the DD1? And it's it's like, you know, I mean, I got my V 2.0 right now with my Porsche rim, and you know, I'm pretty happy with my equipment right now. And, you know, would I decline a free DD1 from Fanatic? Of course not.
Yeah.
But am I going to run out and purchase the first one available? Probably not, you know. Everything will be upgraded in due time. I just am really excited when I see new products hit the market, to see those products get in the hands of sim enthusiasts, and they start making videos, and you start hearing their opinions of it, and just the excitement that's built up around, you know, new and improved equipment. And, you know, that's what I'm excited for in my, you know, more than getting one in my hands per se, but there'll come a time, I'm sure.
Yeah. And back to you, Samantha, and talking about hardware and playing. When you're driving, I know Matt has the triple screens. Which do you focus on? Do you focus on, I'm just thinking out loud, do you kind of focus on the audio or the visual part of it, or which do you find kind of the most immersive part of it?
Well, the screens are incredible. I mean, when you're sitting there and you can see like the side screens on his triple monitor hit right at your peripherals. So it helps with that tunnel vision effect of just looking straight in front of you. So it's like you're in a car. I mean, that's huge. But for me, if I'm going to be shifting, I also have to be listening to the car. I just shift based on sound anymore. But I mean, without that, I'm sure I'd blow the engine up too. So it's a package deal.
Yeah, interesting.
Well, that and the fact that, you know, the monitors and the way I have them situated that are really close to the wheel. Yeah. And just, you know, put a lot of time and effort trying to get everything situated the way it should be. Because I know when you go to different events or different rigs and you see online, like people put the monitors like 3 feet away from them. I just don't understand. But like mine, it's very immersive to where the monitors are real close to you. You got everything right here, your button boxes, the shifter's in a good spot. You know, the seat is adjustable for her so she can get it perfect.
Yes. I think that helps short legs because I have to go all the way up, and even then, I don't know.
Yeah. Interesting, and I guess it comes back to the check out my sim rig, the posts on Reddit and so on, and the different setups people have. Now, you guys got invited to the Experience Mazda event, which was at the 10-hour Petit Le Mans event at Road Atlanta, and so I watched your vlogs, and that sounded interesting. And actually, it turns out I was watching on YouTube and I'll put a link to down in the video description for the podcast episode, the 2018 Motul Petit Le Mans event, and I was watching that, and John Hindhaugh was commentating. So you guys and I think I watched your video when you announced it. So was it so, Matt and Samantha, that the guys from iRacing contacted you and just invited you down? Or is that how it went?
Well, I guess it was Mazda contacted iRacing, and they asked, "Hey, we're looking for some influencers. We're looking for some streamers.
Yeah.
We're looking for some gamers that will that could help us out." And iRacing's, they said right away, Matt and Sam. So I guess there's the first, so it's, so they contacted us.
Yeah.
And said, "Hey, we think you'd be great for this. We'll get you in contact with Mazda," and there you go. So yeah, huge. I mean, it wouldn't be possible without iRacing vouching for us.
Yeah, exactly. A recommendation.
Because Mazda, as a recommendation, because Mazda just kind of trusted iRacing with that decision. So I hope we didn't let Mazda down. But no, it was a great event. I mean, huge opportunity again, and they wanted both of us.
I know, I was like beyond flattered. I think I was bothering Matthew, like, well, they wanted me too. Like, what'd they say?
Yeah.
Did they say my name first or second? Like, ooh, what did they?
Well, the whole idea was they liked our story, meaning you got a guy that's done sim racing for 3-4 years now. He's really entrenched in the community, and then now this new up and coming sim racer, Samantha,
the
where she's brand. She's
the sim racing alien, of course. Yeah. So
she's brand new to it, so it's a good story.
Sorry, I'm just thinking. So Mazda called up and said to iRacing, "Can we have the alien lady and maybe the other guy as well?" Yeah.
I guess Matt has to come along. Yeah. No, but it makes sense, I mean, it's our story is pretty unique, I guess.
Indeed.
A man could only dream about marrying his best friend and then also getting her in the sim rig at the same time. I mean, life couldn't be better for me. I tell you that.
I don't think I get my wife in the sim rig. I think there'd be arguments, or she does well. So and actually, funnily enough, now I watched your vlogs, like I said, and. You arrived in. You took a flight and you flew from O'Hare, which is Chicago, of course. And you arrived and you were just in. It was Hurricane Michael was occurring, wasn't it so? And
Hurricane Michael was just completely down drenching everything. And the pilot, he's like, yeah, we just came from wet Atlanta. He's like, it's no problem. It'll just be a little shaky. And we're looking at each other like, oh my goodness, we're about to land in a hurricane.
We weren't sure if the plane was really going to make the flight, because when we were looking at the weather, it was coming in right as we were supposed to be landing. But I mean, the last 20 minutes, there was some turbulence, but he landed it and we got there safe.
And it's 2018, and when the plane finally landed, everyone on board clapped. Yeah. And I haven't heard that in years and years and years. I mean, that used to happen a lot back in the day, but not nowadays. But man, people were glad that we got that thing landed. Not only on time, but a little bit early. Yeah, it's just crazy, shout out to the pilot.
Exactly, like back in the day in Europe, if you were living in Northern Europe, you'd take a flight maybe down to Malaga, Spain, or somewhere, and the people would clap, and you'd look around and go, "Oh, you noobs, be quiet," But I know exactly what you mean, and it's interesting because you said that when you left your honeymoon, that you also kind of escaped a hurricane, wasn't it so? And then when you were flying down to Atlanta, you kind of ran straight into one. So
we attacked it head on.
Yeah. And then I was watching you guys, and I think one of the nicest things about going on holiday, especially with a family, is the first time you enter the hotel room. And you went and you looked at the table, and you went, hold on a second, this is a billiard table, and that was so cool. And you went, and then there was the. Now I could clearly see who wears the trousers in your relationship because we
were just having fun.
I know, we were just having fun. Samantha was going, Malone, this ain't gonna work, okay? Take those figures and scratch it, start all over again. That guys, that was really funny. Thank you. That really made me smile. So you had now. What kind of setup? Go on, Samantha. Go ahead.
We're just a bunch of goofballs.
Yeah, we had too much time on our hands, I think, in the hotel.
Let's make a video.
And what's crazy is that all those videos, I learned how to edit them all on my phone using the Movie Maker app that's on my Samsung. Like you can chop up video, you can switch it around. And then you pretty much just render it out, and then you can upload it. It's crazy what you can do with just phones now.
That's true. I see the kids in my kids' school. They have a kind of an extra curriculum lesson, and they do stuff on the iPad. I know it would drive me bonkers, but that's really impressive, because I thought maybe you took a laptop with you. Now, if I might ask, the iRacing rigs that they set up at the display stand when you did your events, what kind of gear did they have? Was it a nice setup, or?
I'm actually, it was a motion rig based on the sound card that they had. Yeah. And then they had some Logitech pedals, which the clutch and the brake were kind of fused together, because they had the assists on. But then the rim itself was kind of hidden by all the plastic, so I wasn't too sure what the rim was. It wasn't anything fancy, but it gets the job done. Big monitors and the motion and stuff. So yeah, it gets the job done. They gotta dismantle all that stuff and carry it all around the Americas. So
they're moving it around.
They gotta have it be robust and very durable. So yeah, it gets the job done. It wasn't anything special, but it was a lot of fun. People were having a great time.
Yeah. And did you have a go as well, Samantha? What did you think?
Oh, I did. It was actually my first time ever being in a rig that wasn't Matthews.
Ah, yeah,
so
of course, yeah.
I definitely underestimated that learner curve with it. So I was a mess. I couldn't move the seat forward, so I couldn't reach the pedals. Yeah. I don't know how the kids were there in line racing on them, because I was on the edge of the seat with my tippy toes pressing on the pedals.
and for the most part, we were doing Road Atlanta, which she had never put a lap in Road Atlanta before then. So it was just all new information coming in. But
credit to anybody who can just jump in something new and adjust it and make it work.
Yeah, it's not easy. Like when I was in Germany, they just have, all the rigs there, and it's, the thing about sim rigs is that everybody's sim rig is different than everybody else's. It's a custom piece of art. It's, whatever your imagination comes up with, it depends on your height and your weight and your dimensions and your arm length and your leg length. And that's how people build their rigs, is around them to make it as comfortable and practical as possible. So, it's not easy to be jumping in and out of different sim rigs, but Glenn McGee was there, and he was trying to coach Samantha around Road Atlanta. He's a good coach, but
I saw
that's a lot to ask.
Yeah, you mentioned that in the video. That was kind of cool. And then back to the Petit Le Mans event. So I was familiar with Glenn McGee. So who is, if I might ask a noob question again, who is Kevin Bobbitt exactly from iRacing? Is he a...
Kevin Bobbitt's the marketing director for iRacing. He handles a lot of the marketing events, and and then Glenn McGee, his story went from iRacing to actually real life racing. So
that's fascinating.
He's living the dream. Yeah, it's amazing. He's a great guy. Kevin and Glenn, they're great guys. We got to know them on the trip, and
it was nice getting to hang out with them for sure.
Yeah, it was fun.
And I watched the Q&A event, and Glenn, is now racing. He's racing in the real MX5 Cup. That's really fascinating.
Yeah, he's doing it, man. He's living it. That's a life changer. To go from, maybe casually, or I don't know how hardcore he was in the simulation, but go from a casual racer to, all right, this is your job now. You race real life Mazdas, and you're sponsored, and you're traveling around, and that's a life changer. But he's doing it. He's living it. Hey, you might as well when you're young,
Yeah, and a question to both of you, was that your first time at an actual big racing event? To be honest, I have to admit I've never actually been to one. So was that your first time at a major event, and how did you actually find it in terms of crowds and the driving and the noise and everything? How was it for you guys?
Yeah, when I was younger, my parents took me to a Daytona 500 race down in Florida.
Yeah.
And I don't really remember much, but being very overwhelmed. There's just people everywhere. So this was different because, that's a a NASCAR race. So you kind of go find your spot in the bleachers and, you know, you're just hanging out all day in the sun. So this was different for me because being a road race, it's like you just walk around the track. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah,
true. Yeah. It's a different experience
you just,
because, go ahead.
Yeah, you
Matt,
just
sorry.
get to the, you just get into the infield and then you just kind of literally just walk around like, hey, you want to go to turn 10 or you want to go to the hairpin or let's go to the S's. Okay, let's just walk on over there.
Yeah.
I did go to an Indy race at Road America, but it wasn't anywhere near the excitement around this 10-hour race. But yeah, it was special. And we had full credentials, so we got, like I said, we got to park in the infield, and you know, Mazda really hooked us up pretty well with
that's nice.
some good passes. So
yeah,
that 10-hour race. I mean, we were there at the very. We made sure we woke up early and got to the track early so we could get in early. They did a full grid walk. So we walked on the track, took a look at all the cars.
Wow.
That was fun.
That was a lot of fun. That was an experience for sure.
That was cool.
And then, kind of pick a spot to kind of watch we picked, there's like, I don't know, what do they call them? They're not like bleachers, but there's these big steps that you can sit on at turn 10. The 10A and the 10B right there at Road Atlanta, and that was a great spot to watch. So we hung out there for quite a while. But yeah, what an event! It was a really clean race. They made a record for distance, so there was a lot less cautions than usual. But yeah, what an experience, man! I'll never forget.
Yeah, no, it was really fun. I got nice and sunburnt. I was like,
yeah, we both did. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I've still got my tan lines. It's so funny. The capris I was wearing, like they just cut me off, and like to this day, I've got like this huge line on my leg. I'm like, oh.
Good thing we're heading into winter, so you have to wear long pants to hide all your tan lines.
That's a good one, and that's an interesting point, Samantha, because as you said, when you're in Daytona, you have the oval, of course, with the infield section, so you can technically see the whole race from even from the rear. Whereas you said, if you go to Road Atlanta, you have to basically like decide, okay, well, we're going to set ourselves up and this part of the track, and then like watch the cars go by. That's kind of an interesting point of view. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there were times when like, okay, they're very fast cars, so if we're standing right next to the track, I feel a little unsafe. Like, what would happen here? Like, I don't want to sit here.
Yeah,
they're so quick. It's so loud and so much fun. And what I always say this, what's most impressive is how fast they can slow down into a corner. That's what's impressive, really. When you watch, the braking is just unbelievable. How fast they can get those cars slowed down.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I noticed you had the iRacing stand, and then before that had this kind of, it was presented on a stand at a kind of an angle. There was the Mazda, was it RT24P, the prototype, and it was a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo, which is kind of interesting because the engine in the Ford GT is also small capacity. And then the guy said it was redesigned by Team Yost in Germany. They sent it out to Germany, it got re-engineered and sent back. And then it was also one of the drivers was Lucas de Grasse, which is one of the Formula E world champions, which is I thought that's kind of interesting because Formula E is kind of like the electric cars. It's kind of making its way now, so I think that's kind of interesting. But actually, one of the most interesting things about the event was because I was watching, like I said earlier, I was watching the coverage of the race, and John Hindhaugh was talking about Dr. Don Panos, and I was thinking, hold on, that's familiar, and I couldn't think where it came from, and John Hindhaugh, the British commentator, was talking about how Dr. Don Panos had passed away, and indeed you could hear the emotion in his voice, and then I realized that there's a Panos brand, a racing brand, one of the Panos cars that was on display, it raced in the GTR era, so was like around 1998, 2000. We had the McLaren F1, and you had the Porsche 911 GT1, and you had the Panos cars, and also like these kind of monocoque kind of supercars. And it's interesting now because the guy who was giving you the tour said like the prototype cars are going away, and now they're creating a supercar class, if you will. So it's kind of going back to that kind of style of car, that like the Panos and the 911 GTR1 and the McLaren F1. And then I looked into it, and I realized that the Dr. Don Panos, he died only in September at the age of 83, and he was the guy who created Petit Le Mans and at Road Atlanta, and one of the things that John Hindhaugh said during the commentary was that he talked about the Irish charm, and I was thinking, where is that coming from? Where is the connection? So it turns out his mother was Irish American, and his father was an Italian American boxer, and he had gone to Ireland in 1969, and he was a pharmacist, and his research led to the invention of the nicotine patch. And he founded a company called Elan Pharmaceuticals, which had a factory or a location in the middle of Ireland in a town called Athlone, actually where my cousin used to work, funnily enough. So that was back in the day. And actually, it's funny because it comes full circle. My cousin was working there, and I went to visit her that time. I don't even remember the year. And she's actually now in the States. She's actually living in Jersey. So it's kind of interesting. And then when I looked it up, it turns out that Dr. Don Panos was behind the creation of IMSA and creation of he was behind the creation of Petit Le Mans, and also the IMSA Association, and apparently he was still vice president when he died. So I found the going a little bit down the rabbit hole like I tend to do, but I found the whole story kind of fascinating, like how the whole thing was created.
Yeah, that was all new information to me as well. When it was Patrick Lindsay from Trading Paints was we were hanging out with him most of the weekend, and he kind of led us through that tent area with all those cars and telling us the history of it, and the history of Don and everything, and his influence on it. Well, not only influence, the creator of it, and they looped around to the nicotine patch and this, that, and the other thing. And yeah, it was just a bunch of information coming at me. I didn't retain it all, but I did learn a lot from Patrick, because I don't claim to be super knowledgeable when it comes to real life racing. I do the best I can now to try to learn as much as I can. But it is a wild web that he weaved. Progressing through there. But just really fascinating, isn't it? The full story of it.
Yeah, and I didn't and same as you, Matt, I'm not an expert in motorsports, and a lot of the things I've learned, for example, through sim racing, and saying, well, somebody mentioned Panos, what's that? And then I find out, and then he had gone to Ireland in 1969. He was 34. He had a young family, and he bought a house in the north of Dublin City. And then he started to do research outside in the garden shed, and that's kind of where it came from. And they also had a front-engined LMP car, and then there was this DeltaWing, this kind of not three-wheel car, but it looked like a three-wheel car. And I remembered, I think I sent you a link. I remembered that DeltaWing had been designed by a British guy. That was kind of interesting as well. That he said, I think he said that Panos had actually bought the rights to the DeltaWing, and they were trying to introduce the DeltaWing concept into the IMSA Championship, but it never really worked out. That was interesting too.
Yeah, that thing's a head turner for sure. Like you said, it almost does look like it's three wheels, but there's two wheels in front there. But they try everything, I guess. Try to go fast, and I'm sure there's studies in the wind tunnel, or different engineers take a look at certain things and design cars certain ways, try to get the advantage. But yeah, that was pretty big not too long ago. And then they all did the first pace lap. Some of those cars were involved in that first pace lap in memory of Don. So that was pretty cool.
I saw that. And then
yeah.
John Hindhaugh was saying, I don't know whether it was this year or last year, but if you wanted to be the marshal of the race, you had to write a 500 word piece and submit it. And then the person who made the best submission would be chosen to be marshal. I think that was either for this year or 2018. I don't recall. So, Matt, in terms of the hardware, you're using the Heusinkveld pedals, and actually it's interesting because Niels Heusinkveld, he's the guy behind one of the guys behind Heusinkveld Engineering, and he recently did a video He took one of his old Thrustmaster wheels from the 90s, and he was trying to convert it to get it working. And it's interesting because you talked about using a very old wheel back in the day, and Niels took the wheel apart, and it was just like a tiny little motor with like a elastic bungee cord, you know, and kind of like how far we've come. And you're using, your PC is Core i7 with a 980 Ti. I'm using a 970 actually. You're using a 980. I'm a 970. I'm not that far behind. And you have the TH8A shifter. Now, have you ever tried? Have you ever tried the VR? It's something I usually ask people because I haven't tried it myself.
Now, just as a note, you're even further behind because just 2 days ago I installed the 2080 Ti.
oh, excuse me. Really?
Yeah. But
wow.
No. Yeah, I forgot what the question was. I was just so excited to brag about the 20. Oh, the VR. Yes.
No.
No, the VR I used just once, very briefly back. Oh gosh, it must have been 3 years ago in Texas, when Texas they hosted an iRaceforlife.org community, I don't know, get together way back in the day in Texas, and we all showed up and people brought their rigs. I flew in, so I didn't bring my rig or anything, but that was such a cool event, and they've tried to do it again, but with no success. Anyway, there's a guy there with a very early version, I guess, of an Oculus, I believe.
Yes.
And I tried it out. I remember it very well, vividly. It was the Formula Renault car at Phillip Island because I wanted a car with, not a tin top, so I could really look around. And it felt like I was there. The screen door effect was obviously, very obvious, but it didn't take me long to kind of look past that and understand the technology for what it is. And it was amazing. And it felt like I was there. I even stopped a second and just kind of really looked around, and you can bring your head all the way over and around the side of the car and look down and up back at your spoiler. And it was just, it's really amazing. And I see why people say, I'm going VR and I'm never going back. I sold my monitors and this, that, and the other thing.
Yes, many times you hear that. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, which is great. And, as a streamer, I'm kind of hesitant to do things that would take away from the quality. So I haven't really gone full-fledged into it yet, but I'm sure there'll come a day where I'll pick one up and, maybe do a couple races here and there, maybe just for YouTube, kind of way Jimmy does it. I think is a brilliant way to do it. Yeah, but
that's true.
Yeah, I think it's the future. Do people want something heavy hanging on their head? No, but I'm sure in the future they're going to get lighter and maybe even a different option for that. Yeah. But yeah, they're pretty amazing, and it's really come a long way since Virtual Boy back in the day with Nintendo.
Indeed, and created by a guy called Gunpei Yokoi, who later died in a road accident. Funnily enough, he's actually the inventor of the Game Boy, and it actually ruined his career.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh boy,
that's interesting. I don't know how I remember that. Like I said, I tend to scare people. Samantha, have you ever tried VR, and what did you think? Or
so as far as racing implications, I haven't. I'm a teacher, so we do a lot of like Google expeditions, and we'll get
yes, of course, yeah,
the VR goggles, and we'll do a lot of augmented reality as well as virtual reality.
Yeah,
just as an opportunity to like show the kids different parts of the world, take them on like a virtual field trip. So I've been on that side of it, and I can see just how incredible it is to just be really like immersed in a different area. So I can see the implications of that for racing. I've never done VR goggles for racing at all.
Do you need a permission slip for a virtual field trip?
Well, Mr. Malone, no, you do not.
Malone, these figures are nonsense. Go and do them again. Yeah. I know who's the boss now, Matt. So you better keep quiet. Yeah, I know. Actually, I have a decent smartphone, and it's Google Cardboard compatible. And I know that you can, for example, visit like Machu Picchu and these kind of places. That's kind of interesting. So okay, so you've upgraded to a 2080 Ti. Excuse me. So I think I think I should hang up now. But no, actually interesting. I had Shaun Cole on from the Simpit, and I watched the review of the 2080 Ti, or it was the PC World podcast, and I was trying to keep up the speed, and they were saying, well, this is an amazing new car, but it's only really a stopgap until they go to the next, like the next 7 nanometer process. And I was thinking, okay, so but the 2080 Ti, sorry, that's an amazing car, so that should give that is a jump now from like many people have 1080, 1070, from a 980 to a 2080. That's a massive jump, because you're going from like 3 or 4 gigabytes of virtual memory to like 12 or 16. So that's crazy. Yeah.
I figured, I kind of upgraded 2 computers at once, because my other computer had a really old graphics card in it. So now I got the 980 in that one.
Yes, of course.
But,
that's a great.
I mean, really isn't everything now just a stopgap until the next one comes out? I mean, it's just, I mean, things move so fast nowadays, and
absolutely,
it's all about time. So is it worth to have a better quality stream for a year for this amount of money until the next one comes out? I mean, I can justify that. I'd rather have good, high quality streams for, now than waiting, because you can always wait till the next one comes out. I already waited. I waited through the 10 series, so to get to the 20 series. So I figured I waited long enough. So. And the wife said yes. So
yeah, that sounds like the pitch I
got. You got some approval from the boss. You had to go and ask the boss and said,
"Yeah,
boss,
exactly.
Hey boss, I want to buy a new graphics card. Is that all right with you?" And you said, "Okay." So no, Matt, I didn't. I know. Forgive me. I didn't mean it that way. It's like the guys were saying it's a stopgap because, and obviously, like I said, I've been following. And even the 2080 is out now. There won't even be games that will utilize that card for another 2 years. So I think you're right, like I said, to make the investment now, and that card will last you a long time, because we're at the point of diminishing returns. And even, for example, like VR's the thing. Even when they did the launch of the 2080, they talked about this ray tracing. There wasn't even a talk of VR, and I was thinking, hold on a second, like there's a new HTC Vive Pro. This is the next kind of version of the virtual reality headset, but it wasn't the upgrade people were expecting. And then recently, Facebook launched a new VR headset, which is kind of mobile optimized. So that wasn't it either. So it's you see people on both sides who are like, no VR, no buy, and then people are like, well, okay, well, the VR thing didn't really happen. So it's taking a lot of time, and I believe you're right to go for it now. And indeed, if I had the money, I would invest in a 2000 series card now. So one note I wanted to ask you about some other titles. I know you one of your videos, Matt, was your first ever online race in Assetto Corsa using the Porsche 911R, and you also had a poster of Porsche on your wall. I'm a big Porsche fan. I did a video about Magnus Walker on the channel, and it's interesting because when you guys visited Road Atlanta, there was the Panos car, the Panos Esperante GTR1, and I looked at it. Actually, I was trying to think in which title has it, and actually it's in Project Cars 2, I believe. And then there's a modding team called United Racing Design who are making a pack for R Factor 2, and that will be the late 90s, early 2000s GT pack. So it will be the GTR1 and possibly also the Panos. That will be interesting. So are there any other titles? You're obviously busy with streaming iRacing on Twitch, but are there any other titles you've tried? Any other titles you're kind of interested in, like Assetto Corsa Competizione and so on?
Yeah, ACC is definitely something I'm waiting to see how that's going to be. I tried it out with that first car, first track kind of combo deal that they had. I know they've added another car and track since then. I haven't tried it out yet, but yeah, I'm excited for ACC. I'm excited for it. I have gotten into a little bit of a Assetto Corsa through the SRS system. Gamer Muscle, he does a lot of Assetto Corsa.
He does.
And
Yeah.
since we formed a relationship now, a friendship, I've been watching more and more of his streams, and just kind of, he inspires me to try out more Assetto Corsa. And I do like the SRS system because it's a lot like iRacing, where the races are scheduled and you just go at it. I've always considered myself kind of a one-trick pony when it comes to sim racing. I mean, I'm just doing iRacing most of the time. Yeah. I mean, 99% of my channel is just iRacing.
Yes.
And I'm not really 100% sure why. I think it's just because I'm comfortable with it, and I've just grown accustomed to it. But I do really need to force myself to branch out to other sims and try them out. So I'm slowly starting to do that with Assetto Corsa. But who knows? Maybe I could try some R Factor down the road. I know sometimes if, maybe I'll pop in Project Cars 2 and then I'll never hear the end of it because it's an arcade game, or, some of the iRacing guys are a little bit elitist when it comes to certain things. And I understand that. Yeah. It's kind of limited time right now, but we're almost into the winter time. And that means I can stream full time because I get laid off from my normal job. Yeah. So then I can stream full time. So there'll be definitely more time to branch out to different sims. But I am excited about ACC. That would be top of my list right now.
Yeah. But
after iRacing.
Actually, it's kind of interesting what you're saying, because and we touched on this earlier, how the iRacing is focusing on the kind of the real world competition. Sorry. The real world competition, racing with real people, and it's what, like, all the titles, be it console or PC, it's what all the titles are kind of aiming for, and people are tired of maybe playing offline, and maybe the AI is not so great, and iRacing is talking of bringing in AI, and like Assetto Corsa has brought in sim racing system to have an iRacing like online system. And then you have the Assetto Corsa Competizione, which will have a ranked online racing, or so they say. And Gran Turismo Sport on the PlayStation has this FIA backed kind of online ranking, and I can see why you're kind of comfortable with iRacing, because many people talk about it as like the pinnacle of, like, in terms of racing competitively in many cases, or at least in the higher levels, kind of cleanly. It seems to be like the place to be. In particular, now, if you're a competitive type, I suppose I don't see myself really as the competitive type per se, and it's all down to time and so on as well. But I think you made the reference to kind of a one trick pony. There are many people who focus on many titles, and indeed there are only so many hours in the day you kind of can play them all. You could maybe dabble, but I think it's an interesting point, because iRacing is kind of where it is, really, isn't it? So
yeah, I mean, I hope for good competition for iRacing. I wish there'd come along more and more hardcore simulators to compete with iRacing. Yes. I wish these other titles would just copy iRacing's format of kind of like a web-based browser experience where you register for races and they're scheduled out. I mean, can't they just copy them? I don't know why they, if people like it, just use it. But then I see other titles like Forza, and the numbers just completely blow iRacing out of the water. So what are these game developers really after? They're looking at their bottom line. Yeah. So for them to make a fun arcadey style type racer like a Forza is going to benefit them more than trying to start from the ground up, a hardcore simulation.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, but I do hope for good competition, and that's why ACC, I'm really rooting for these other titles to kind of get on par with iRacing as far as what I like to see from a simulator. Yeah. Now, a lot of people say, well, R Factor has the best physics, or, this other title has the best, force feedback or whatever. But what I'm looking for is good online competition in a formatted style with consequences, meaning I rating and safety rating are in effect. You know, you have a goal to shoot for. You have season standings. You have championship points. Just the structure of iRacing is very addicting because people love to see, you know, after the race, okay, let's go see if I gained any I rating, or, oh, great, how much safety rating did I lose this time? Or can I hold on to my A license?
Yeah, people do put a lot of effort into it, and I think it's the way that the game is designed. I mean, you're not popping in for a quick 2-minute race, and if you wreck out, you just leave the race. I mean, there's consequences for all of that. So
yeah, a lot of these races, I mean, I'd say on average now it's a 40 minutes of racing. I mean, I remember GT3 being like a long race. Well, now you got the iRacing Le Mans series, that's an hour. You got IMSA, that's 45 minutes. I mean, they're really long. You got to invest quite a bit.
You're committed to it, which adds to that, you know, that competitive spirit, because if you're going to commit to something for 40 minutes, you don't want your race to be over in the second lap.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And, you know, strength of field Sunday comes around, like the weekends, you know, you get multiple splits in some of these higher tier series, and that's when you really see the competition.
I think the difference is that the people that are in iRacing, the way it's developed, they're really serious about it. Like, if you call it a game, people are arguing it's a simulator.
That's kind of a meme, but you don't call it a game.
No, it's a game, but
it's a game. I know. I agree. It's a game in the genre of simulator. Yes.
Yeah. What are you like? What are you doing playing Super Mario again? But it's interesting though, because Samantha, like you said earlier, that you'd never raced in the real world, and indeed neither have I. And I guess like jumping in straight into iRacing, it's trying to mimic what like the career of a real racing driver, isn't it? And kind of like you have to rank up and get your license, and so that's kind of what they're aiming for. Samantha, I had a question. You said you're a teacher. And I talked about this with Shaun Cole on the previous episode, how the millennials got I have difficulty with that. So, but the young kids now, they're not so interested in cars. So I wanted to ask, the kids you teach, do they know that you kind of race online? Are they interested? Do they ask you about it, or have they any interest in?
Well, I haven't shared that side with them yet, just because, you know, something that I really value that Matthew does is he keeps his cool. Yeah. And that's something that I'm still learning to do. I'm trying really hard to keep my cool, but there are a couple races where they're cringy for me to watch, because I'm like, like nobody wants to watch me getting upset at a game. Like, this is terrible. Yeah. So I haven't shared it with the kids, just because, you know, I want to like keep myself as the teacher, not the Mrs. Malone, the video gamer. Like,
Can you imagine?
Interesting.
They'll all be coming over to me. I mean, as it is right now, our day, I'm just constantly battling Fortnite during the school day. Like, please stop it. Like, stop it with your dance moves. Stop talking about it.
It's become like a problem, I guess, in these schools. All these kids are doing the Fortnite dances. And it's just like they threw away their fidget spinners, and now they're flossing.
Yes. But honestly, the millennials and the younger generation, I don't even know what they're calling this upcoming generation, the Y generation.
Yeah.
They are more interested in watching people play. They'll watch people play with toys on YouTube. They'll watch people play games instead of playing them themselves. Like, there's this fascination with watching others rather than, you know, jumping on and doing it yourself. So I haven't shared that part with my students. I mean, I teach second grade, so my hope is that they won't stumble across it. But
I mean, I understand.
And type my name, it pops up. So it's only a matter of time.
So hopefully they're not listening to this podcast, and it would be quite sad if they were. But indeed, the Fortnite. My son plays like 2 hours a day, so we have an ongoing. Fortnite is a battle. We have an ongoing battle. He tries to kind of play as much as he can. It's an ongoing issue, guys. It's been lovely to have you on the show. Lovely to talk with you and to get to know more about what you're up to. So is there anything you want to talk about coming up on the channel that you'd like to promote, or anything interesting that you want to talk about coming up?
Oh, well, it's been a blast hanging out with you for the past hour. I've always enjoyed your podcast. Whenever I see one pop up, I'm like, oh boy. And I make sure I have YouTube Red so I can download the YouTube videos on my phone.
Indeed, yeah.
And then I can listen to it anywhere, regardless of the cell service. But what's coming up? Well, winter is almost here, and I've been counting down the days until the snow starts falling, and the boss calls and says, "Up, that's it for this year." And so the streams will really be amping up here in the next couple months through coming up to the holidays. Probably and everything.
Within the next month, you'll be
coming up this month. Hopefully, it's never guaranteed. Obviously, it's just based on workflow. But anyway, just doing our normal thing, streaming when I can and getting Samantha in there when she can. We've kind of both, she said, she teaches second grade, and those dirty little second graders, they're always bringing their the diseases and flu symptoms, germs to school. We've been sick. We've been sick lately, and just kind of getting through that. And just seems, we're newlyweds, and it's honestly hard. It's busy. I mean, it's busy.
Here, Matthew's invited me into his world for his stream, and now I'm fighting him for his stream hours. Essentially, is what it's like. It's been like. So in the wintertime, the plan will be that Matthew gets to stream,
during the day,
and then if I want to jump on 2 or 3 times during the week after I get out of work, he can wrap up his stream, and then I can start mine. So then there's no competition for the
but I mean, as far as anything coming up right now, I do have 2 big special event races. I might get this wrong, but I believe one of them's on November 24th, and the other one is December 1st, and these are endurance races. One of them's a charity race. If you check out the streams until then, I can give more information. But a couple of big events coming up, and other than that, just regular old goofiness.
Which is enjoyable. And I think it, like we talked about Jimmy earlier, Jimmy Broadbent. I think that's what people kind of watch Jimmy for, and the same for you guys. It's the goofiness, shall I say, the personality, the idiosyncrasies of the whole thing. And indeed, Jimmy mentioned that he started off on. I remember now. I meant to make a note. You're streaming. Is it Grip TV you're with? Is it so, Matt?
Yeah, me and Jimmy created Grip TV way back in the day. Yeah, it's like a little sim racing network thing.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting. So it was created by you and Jimmy. That's interesting.
Yep. We're officially co-founders of it. And it's a kind of a sim racing network, and we've gotten some other streamers involved, and it's just kind of a good community to be a part of, and kind of spread the word on sim racing, and we kind of help each other out when we can, and so Jimmy, man, he's exploded. I love watching him succeed, both in racing and in the streaming department.
Absolutely.
And now he's going off on adventures of his own and doing commentating, and it's just awesome to see. I love that guy. He's great.
And do you know what? Jamie is such a nice guy, because Jamie he was coming upon 100,000 subscribers and so on. And I said, Jimmy, would you come on my show? And I'm teeny tiny. I'm the guy hiding over in the corner. And Jimmy's like, no problem. And I asked Jimmy to come on with Stephen Bailey, and he came on, and it was great. And that's the thing about Jimmy, it's like, sure, I'll help you out. And Jimmy noted, by the way, I remember Jimmy said he was streaming on Twitch, and then he moved over to YouTube. He seems to be where the eyeballs are, so to speak. So are you kind of streaming on? Are you streaming simultaneously on YouTube and Twitch, or is it Twitch only?
No, it's Twitch only, and I'm a Twitch partner, so I can really only stream on Twitch, and then I record my races, and then I upload them to the YouTube. The whole Twitch versus YouTube thing on where to live stream or not, I think it just matters on personal preference. I just tend to like the Twitch aspect better than the YouTube thing. I think of YouTube as a place to upload videos to, and then Twitch is the place to live stream to. I'm just an old curmudgeon, I guess. It's just the way I always thought it was.
Not at all. It's like well, you find something that works and you're busy and
right.
you know, like for example, you know the content you want to make and you know a system that works and you hear about it all the time. Well, I'm using this system, that system. One works, the other doesn't. Now, final couple of questions, if I may, and then we can wrap up. In terms of, let's say you want to sit down in the rig and let's say just relax. I asked this question to Shaun Cole, and Shaun said he said the Indy car at Long Beach, he said, in Project Cars 2, which I thought was kind of interesting because Shaun does a lot of Assetto Corsa sim racing system and iRacing, and he said the Indy car at Long Beach, which was interesting because he said it's his home turf, he knows the track. So because the iRacing is like really deeply competitive and they're scheduled races, but if you guys, let's say, wanted to kick back and just have a spin on the simulator, is there something that you would kind of go to maybe? Is there a go-to you might pick just as a kind of a point of relaxation?
Point of relaxation? Well, if it was just relaxing, I would just do Mazda at Le Mans, right? Let's see. If I were to just get in and be like, you know what, I'm going to pull up my best combo, my favorite combo, it'd probably be the Mustangs at Bathurst or the Porsche Cup car at Phillip Island.
Oh, yes.
Those Phillip Island is so much fun, especially with the Porsche. But Mustangs at Bathurst will always have a special place in my heart, especially if you get my buddy Flisco in there running around and you go 2x2 through the dipper in a Mustang. That's something else.
And which Mustang is that? Which era of Mustang is that now, Matt?
Just the old. It's Mustang from the one in iRacing.
Okay, interesting.
It's the GP. Yeah, it's a big old boy, big old beast.
Yeah,
but it's pretty outdated now.
And Bathurst is an interesting track because it's a road circuit most of the day, the mountain, and it's really like twist and turny at the start. It's a very intimidating kind of track. And what about you, Samantha? I guess it's still like relatively early days in terms of you're in the MX-5 and the MX-5 Cup and then the Skip Barber. Is there something that you would like? Would you ever see yourself like sitting in the rig just to take a spin in a car just to relax? Like, let's say something that for me it's like something that maybe I said it to Shaun. I might say take an all manual Porsche and maybe drive the hills of California, just something like that. Maybe that I most likely will never do in real life. So is there anything that you like to do, or is it just is your time on the simulator spent like practicing in iRacing, or what do you like to do?
It is. I will say there's not really a ton of relaxation for me when I jump into it because I'm constantly tweaking everything I'm doing. There's nothing automatic enough that I could do it with my eyes closed right now. My favorite track, though, I love doing the Mazda on Lime Rock Park. Yes. It was just one of those tracks that Matthew first set up for me and like put me in the seat, and he's like, do it, and so it's probably the most automatic track for me. So I'm not constantly thinking about if I'm hitting my marks. But, I guess for relaxation, that would be what I would jump into. But in general, there's no relaxation in the seat for me.
She's a nervous wreck. White knuckling.
Yeah. That's interesting. Actually, now that we were talking about Assetto Corsa earlier. In Assetto Corsa, there is so much free content. Indeed, I've done a tutorial on Assetto Corsa, and I'm sorry it's 70 minutes long, but there you go. But it shows you, for example, you can use this content manager to very easily install mods, and there's loads of tracks. There's LA Canyons, there's like the hills of California, and if you have time, you can just sit in there and jump in an all manual car and just spin around, and that's really kind of nice, So I would recommend that. By the way, is Lime Rock Park, isn't that the home of the Skip Barber, or am I dreaming, or isn't it so?
The home of Skip Barber? I don't know.
The guy who created a driving school back in the day, and he created the Skip Barber car, and I think it was Lime Rock Park, or am I thinking of something else? Anyway,
I don't know.
Well, if that's true, then that's obviously the destiny why it's my favorite.
I must look it up because I think, if I remember correctly, I watched an interview one time with the guy who created the racing school, and as part of the racing school, he created the Skip Barber format, that like the low powered, like I guess in Europe it would be the Formula 4, the small open wheel car, and I think Lime Rock Park. There's some interview. Something like, I must look it up. And actually, one of the things I'm going to include in the video description is a link to Billy Strange Racing. Billy Strange is a good friend of mine and friend of the show. And Billy Strange had done a podcast. Now, this podcast is 2 hours and 40 minutes long. And Billy and his team, including Shaun Cole from the Sim Pit, had taken part in the last 24 hours of Le Mans in iRacing, and it was 2 hours 40 minutes long, and I listened to every minute of it, and I thought, I have to say, guys, I recommend to go and listen to it. It's brilliant because the passion that the guys talked about, and it was the best kind of, and just taking iRacing as an example, and indeed I would say if iRacing want to do a kind of a promo of the best elements of what they're trying to create, kind of like, for me, that was it. The passion that the guys were talking about, how they kind of got together and how they scheduled the 24 hours, and I would recommend that listen to that. It was really good. I thought I sent my compliments after to Shaun and to Billy after that, because I thought that was really interesting, and I thought, like, in terms of all these titles, like building a community and the kind of the online competitive systems, and like endurance racing, like you talked about, for example, Matt doing endurance racing coming up. They had 24 hours. There was a whole team of them. They were in different places, and it was one of the best events they had. And I think from the podcast, it really came through. So I would recommend to listen to that, albeit 2 hours 40 minutes, but I think it was really good. So, and I can see why the Matt and Samantha, that you both like iRacing so much, because the strength in the title, I think, came through in that recording.
Yeah. Just another thing about iRacing, why I like it so much, is because you don't have to buy another iRacing in a year when they come out with another title. It's a continuous, it's a work in progress. It's their labor of love, and they're not going to just throw it away and come up with something else and expect you to pay money for it. They're in it for the long haul, so I'm in it for the long haul.
Yeah, games as a service, they call it, and indeed they're out. I could recommend. I mean, if you see sometimes in the forums or on Reddit, people will ask, like, which is the best sim title, for example. I meant, is it Race Room or Automobilista or R Factor? And many will say go and try them all if you can, and I agree, because if I start to think about the differences between all the different titles, if I start to think about it and discuss it and write it down, I'd be here for hours. And indeed, on the channel, I made a kind of a tutorial for, I set a course, R Factor 2 and Race Room, because I saw that kind of, I'd been playing the titles for so long, I kind of thought, well, this is confusing, and this is and this is complicated, and this needs to be explained. And I thought that there was, of course, tutorials there for different aspects of the game, but I tried to create a kind of a getting started kind of a guide to get, particularly for new people, because when you get into a title, let's say like R Factor 2 or Race Room, for example, which I can also recommend, but that's another long story. But once you get started in it, people will say, okay, there's a title here on sale on Steam, go and get that. But once you get into it, like, okay, well, where do you start? Like, which content do I start with, and how do I set up my wheel? A lot of these titles, and it comes back to well, let's not call it a game, it's a sim. A lot of these titles can be very, very intimidating to start with. So,
yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things where when people ask me about other sims, I kind of have to tell them, like, well, I haven't really tried a lot of other sims, and I'm a iRacing fanboy. I bring that right out to the forefront. So when people are hearing my opinions on iRacing and other things, they understand where I'm coming from. Is that I don't have a whole lot of experience with the other sims, and like I said, I really do need to force myself to kind of branch out and kind of understand what iRacing's competition is, what's actually out there that's available. And, you know, I've always said, you know, like I said, take my opinion with a grain of salt because, you know, I don't have much experience with other stuff, but I mean, I can tell you, you know, my experience with iRacing and what it's done for me and what it continues to do, you know, and just take it for what it is. But yeah, no, like I said, I always am waiting for something to come around the corner that's really going to compete with iRacing in the ways that I would want it to. And
indeed,
like I said, that ACC game, it looks interesting. It's going to be kind of, there's not going to be a whole lot to it. It's just kind of the one series, as far as I understand, just the GT3 series.
It's basically the Blanc Bond GT series.
Right.
Yes, indeed. Yes. That's
but
true.
you never know. It could branch out into something else later on if that succeeds. You know,
it could be. I think it's a platform potentially because there's GT3 and there's GT4 and they're also bringing in another category, GT2. They launched it when they announced the game, or when they kind of officially launched the game. There is another category coming, because I think the manufacturers have cars there for it, so that's coming. And a lot of people are suspecting that what they might make it as a platform for making the different series available, so you would buy content. Now the thing about it is, as a final point, it's Unreal Engine 4. The title, now they're still working on it, but as a piece of software, it's quite resource heavy. So just funny enough, you got the 2080 card, so Matt, you're ready for it now, because
I'm switching over full time to ACC so I can trace all of the rays. Yes, I can't believe I lived my whole life without ray tracing until
I
now.
don't know. I don't know how actually.
I live is like living like a caveman.
Yeah, when I heard the announcement, I wondered how I'm still alive. You know, so guys.
Oh boy.
Matthew, Samantha, thank you very much for joining. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for having us. We really do appreciate it.
And I'm honored.
and I'm honored to have you. And it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. And thank you for all the great content, and long may it continue. And best of luck, Samantha, in working on your ranking up. And I look forward at some point, Matt, to maybe some Assetto Corsa. I'm not bending your arm, bending your ear or anything, but it's worth a try. And perhaps also some Assetto Corsa Competizione sometime in the future when you have time. But indeed, sometimes it's what they call, there's an expression, it's like Steam library paralysis. You look at your Steam library, you boot up the computer, and you think, what will I play today? And like I
know exactly what you're talking about.
And I don't know. And then you follow the forums, and there's new content. And sometimes, like I said, sometimes I just want to kick back, and I'll boot up Assetto Corsa, and I'll just drive around in the mountains for a while, and that's enough for me, you know. So, but I try to keep abreast of what's happening, and trying to run this podcast is a form of doing that. So, guys, thank you again very much for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Yeah. And I've been enjoying the podcast, and I never miss an episode. So keep doing them. Keep it going.
Matthew, thank you very much. I appreciate the fact that you said that. And I've had some good comments. And actually, from one of the earlier episodes, one guy said, I was cleaning out my garage and I had the podcast on in the background. And that was just a one comment, and I thought, perfect, you know, that was it. That's what I wanted to hear, you know. Because that's like the kind of thing that I would do, you know. So
yeah, definitely.
Or when I'm vacuuming, so I have to turn up the turn up the volume so I can still hear, and then I have to be careful lest I should go deaf. So, guys, thanks again for joining.
All right, thank you, sir.
So much.
This audio podcast is available on YouTube, iTunes and Google Play, or you can download and listen to an MP3 audio file from my website, or add the RSS feed to your podcast player. If you're listening to the podcast on iTunes, I would appreciate a rating and a review, and on YouTube, subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell icon. If you enjoy an episode, a like is always welcome, as are any comments or questions you may have, which you can add in the comment section below each episode. Thank you.
Cheers. Although, if people don't like, they're going straight down into Davy Jones's locker, so they better click the like button. Is that the outro music? Do 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 do.